can get the rewards and you can get the traction, but there's no shortcut.
Yeah, I want to delve deeper into that actually, and I'll probably ask a couple of questions from sort of the newbie perspective. One thing I will say about your work ethic is I know this for a fact because I know when I'm messaging you at 2 a.m, you're still up playing FIFA at 2 a.m, because that's the only time that you get. And then you're back up.
That's not work
It is, mate. When you're doing like 6 till like 10 of work, and then it's like, okay, now I need to watch some UFC and some FIFA. Then I know that like, okay, this guy's got his priorities sorted. So it's not all work. But a couple of things that I want to ask from sort of a newbie perspective. So one of them that you've just started to answer regarding if you were just starting out, what sort of steps that you need to take, and you do need to know every single step as well as you can. There can't be those shortcuts, because at the end of the day, there's two things that are on the line: your reputation, and you've got a consumer that's paying you thousands of pounds. Do you know what I mean? So you have to get it right. A couple of things that I would like to ask, and I'll be asking this on behalf of obviously our Facebook group. In terms of getting deals, that's perfectly fine. The difficulty that I had when I was starting out was actually finding investors to purchase these deals, because agents are not going to hang around for you to say, well, okay, I've got a deal now, and let me go and find the investors, and it takes me 2 months to find someone to buy it. They just have no patience, and understandably so. What advice would you give to a newbie in terms of building up an investors list of people that are fairly confident that will buy? And number two, would you build up the investors list as you go along, or before or after you start?
So I think the first thing is what people will ask, what comes first, the investor or the deal?
Yeah, it's like chicken and egg, isn't it?
And to a certain extent, there is no right or wrong answer. But on the other hand, you always should have the client before you get the product. So in my opinion, it would be easier to find the investor who is committed and serious before looking for the deal. So you can go sit for hours and hours on Rightmove looking for properties. But if you don't know who that property's for, if he hasn't told you it's 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, it's in a city centre location, it's this rent, there's no point, because you don't know who you're going to give that to. So you could be wasting agencies and landlords' time.
Yeah, true.
So it's better to form a relationship with an investor and ask them what they're looking for, and going through dummy deals with them and saying, look, I've got this property in Oxford, this is what it looks like, this is what it's going to be making, and then getting their confidence that they will go forward with a deal. Then go and look for properties, because obviously when you're already in the business, it doesn't really matter, because you'll always have a balancing act of I've got too many investors and not enough stock, or I've got too many properties and I don't have enough investors. But also I think that newbies should think about partnering with people who they think are credible and that they think they can follow in their footsteps, or maybe even help one another, because every deal sourcing company needs more of something, whether it's they don't have enough buy, refurbish, refinance, or they don't have enough service accommodation units, or maybe they don't focus on different areas. So if somebody came to me tomorrow and says, I work in Liverpool, I can go and find investors in Liverpool for service accommodation. If you guys want to find the properties, that could be interesting maybe. The same as in Birmingham or in Manchester. So depending on the areas, that could be a way of a newbie having an alliance with somebody else, leveraging off their kind of knowledge and their background, following kind of their recipe and seeing how it works. So that could be another way of doing it. Obviously, there's mentorships and training, but you need to do proper due diligence and make sure that person's interested in the end result, because a lot of the time people are left hanging. They'll go through a training session. They say, "Here's the carrot. Here's another kind of course.
Pay for more, innit?
Pay for more." And so for us, the training, we're not really into doing training. I don't think we ever wanted to kind of make a business out of it. We're going to help a few people as well, but we're more interested in long-term partnerships. We want to make sure that we're getting into a business bed with people that are credible, honourable, and have our interests at heart just as much as we will have their interests at heart.
I love that. Is there any sort of specifics in terms of how you would go about finding investors? A lot of my investors tend to primarily come from social media. Right. Things like, obviously I'm sort of lucky enough to have the Facebook group. Things like LinkedIn have worked particularly well for me. Have you got any sort of like particulars, or do you just find over time, the more you start, more your reputation gets better, the more you're selling, the more you get sort of customer reviews and people sort of promoting you, that these investors will come naturally? Or how would you get sort of started in sort of a specific way? I
think it depends on the strategy you're looking at, but I think in general, the more that you showcase what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. It will show your personality and what type of person you are, and it will attract those type of people to you.
Yeah.
So if you're demonstrating that you're looking for properties in Southampton, you know, for flips, and you're constantly doing that, and somebody asked a question in a different group saying, oh, do you know somebody who's deal sourcing in Southampton for flips? They will remember that they've seen you, and then they can recommend you. So it's one of those things where the more content you put out there and the more you transparently show yourself as a person, people will either be attracted or not attracted to you. So there are some people you watch and you think, oh God, I don't like watching that guy. He doesn't really fit my kind of personality, which is fine. But there are some people who will say, oh, I really like that guy. You know, he seems to be pretty honest, and he's getting more and more people, you know, watching his videos. So I think content is probably one of the things I'd say. And basically walking the walk. People want to see that you're doing it, not just talking about it.
100%.
So if I'm a deal sourcer, shall I show them a camera of me looking for properties and how I'm doing it, demonstrating, you know, sort of how I go through the spreadsheets, me talking to a management company about, you know, will this work for serviced accommodation? So people need to sort of see deeper in terms of how you're doing things, because they want to see behind the facade and the mask that you have, is there any substance?
Yeah. Do you actually have the knowledge to back it up?
Yeah.
I love that. One thing that I would go back to, if you don't mind talking about, but I do feel it might be able to help people, is